Chapter 309 Betting Against the Darkness Green Dragon. Let's draw the lots. When the MC uttered these 4 words, 98 deliberately glanced at Huo Yuao in his wheelchair, who was a head shorter than everyone else. His lips moved, and he seemed to be mouthing, "Pray." Huo Yuao smiled a strange smile. "Yes. Pray, but it's you who has to pray that you won't be matched with me." The lot drawing process was simple. There was a large crystal ball, and 6 tiny balls inside with magnets on them. There were 2 magnets in each of 3 different areas inside the crystal ball, and the tiny balls that were drawn to the magnets in these respective areas when the crystal ball began to rotate would face each other today. The balls with 96 and 98 were already attached to 2 different regions, which meant the 2 wouldn't meet each other in this round. The 4 other balls were still at the bottom. "All right, I will commence today's crystal lottery. Spin." The MC pressed a button beneath the crystal, and the crystal ball gradually started to rotate. The 4 balls at the bottom were gradually tossed into the air as the crystal began to spin faster and faster. The 3 grooved areas with magnets attached to them didn't move. The first ball was quickly sucked away to one of the remaining empty regions. "All right, number 88 into the 3rd region. I have to say that you're quite fortunate, Mysterious Soul Engineer 88. You're lucky that you're not up against the 2 of them, who we have estimated as powerful Class 6 Soul Engineers." Hikatu's number was the first to be drawn. 98 glanced at Huo Yuao once more, as if he was saying, "Your chances of meeting us are a lot higher now." Another tiny ball was sucked into one of the regions with a whistle right at this moment. This time, this ball was sucked into the region with 96 inside. 37 versus 96, inside the first region. 37 was instantly overcome with despair. He knew that he had a chance against Hikatu, but he had no chance against 96. 96 was confirmed to be a Class 6 Soul Engineer, and he possessed a ranked carving knife as well. "All right, the 5th one has been retrieved." 66 versus 98, in the 2nd region. Both 98 and Huo Yuao's eyes immediately became a little peculiar. Their gazes met, and Huo Yuao saw a sardonic smile, while 98 saw a look of exasperation and helplessness. There was no suspense with the last draw. 85 versus 88, in the 3rd region. Hikatu was practically given a walkover. "All right, the lottery has been completed. Everyone will be given 15 minutes to place their bets. Only who are here will be able to take advantage of this treatment. The opportunity will never return if you let it slip. The 15 minutes begins now. May I invite the 3 contesting pairs to move to your respective seats? The next 10 hours will be tiring and exhausting, but the ultimate winner can take the rare medals that have been prepared for you at the center of the competition stage. It's very difficult to evaluate these medals, because they can't be purchased on the market. Every winner will win 54 different kinds of rare medals, 5 kilos of each." The lottery had been completed, and the entire Golden Hall began to hustle and bustle. Everybody had their own guesses and estimations from the lottery, and everyone would undoubtedly have the most confidence making their bets at a time like this. Of course, placing their bets within the allotted 15 minutes also meant that their odds were a lot lower than before. Even so, the entire place still descended into chaos, and all 36 betting booths were packed with people. Hikatu came over to Huo Yuao and pushed his wheelchair into the 2nd region, while 98 tagged along. "You're finished, little fellow. Your only chance to live is if you admit defeat right now," he continued proudly. "This is what it means to say God knows what you did. You're too arrogant, so you ended up having to face me. Ha 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 ha." Huo Yuao turned around and looked at Hikatu. He frowned and said, "Am I that arrogant? 98, are you that confident of gobbling me up?" 98 grunted coldly and replied, "If I can't beat someone like you, humph." Huo Yuao laughed. "Why don't we place a bet? This tournament exists for wagering anyway." A suspicious look flashed across the other Soul Engineer's face. "You still dare to wager with me, young man? What are the stakes?" Huo Yuao said, "I'll take your carving knife. If you lose, then that carving knife will belong to me, and I won't take your life. See, I'm such a conversationalist, and I'm so amiable and generous. You want my carving knife?" 98 wasn't a fool. He could tell from Huo Yuao's smiling face that he wasn't anxious or worried at all, and he felt alarm bells go off in his head. Has he been hiding his abilities this entire time? What about you? Unless you have your own ranked carving knife, you're not worthy of making this bet with me. Huo Yuao answered, "I don't have a ranked carving knife, but I have a soul tool. What do you think?" He reached inside his pocket and took out a soul tool that resembled a chest plate. It was the Hinchen's blessing that Jing Hinchen had given him. "Take it and let him feel it, brother." Huo Yuao passed his Hinchen's blessing to Hikatu beside him. Hikatu took Huo Yuao's Hinchen's blessing and stepped over to 98. They were all soul engineers, so everyone was relatively discerning about soul tools. Hikatu revealed the Hinchen's blessing's formation arrays to 98 for a single look before he infused his soul power into it and released a thread of the soul tool's aura. He then passed it back to Huo Yuao. 98's eyes grew slack. That was a miniature formation array. Soul tools were necessarily more powerful as they got bigger, and this was especially true with regards to their formation arrays. Smaller soul tools were easier to carry, too. For instance, Hinchen's blessing was only several centimeters thick. How could Huo Yuao carry it with him everywhere he went if the formation arrays inside were too big? Creating miniature formation arrays was 10 times harder than the same normal-sized formation arrays. Typically, only soul engineers above class 7 would attempt something like this. 98 had only been given one look at it, but he realized that the soul tool that he had just seen possessed at least 5 miniature formation arrays, and every single one seemed exceedingly complex. This soul tool was definitely not a prototype, and was undoubtedly class 8, at the very least. It also possessed a dense and intense aura. The miniature formation arrays inside were already incredibly valuable by themselves, because every high-level soul engineer crafted formation arrays with their own unique methods. Learning something about these unique methods was priceless to mid-level soul engineers. 98 hadn't expected Huo Yuao to wager something as precious as this against him. Of course, he was confident that his ranked carving knife's value wasn't inferior to this soul tool. Greed began to stir in his heart. His eyes closed into slits as he stared at Huo Yuao, and Huo Yuao stared back at him. Huo Yuao's eyes were calm, and there even a tinge of condescension in them. Is this a trick? Has he been hiding his abilities this whole time? He wants to bait me and win my ranked carving knife. 98 was a little arrogant, but he wasn't an idiot. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become the soul engineer that he was today before the age of 30. He pondered long and hard, and decided that he would reject this wager. Even though his aura would be beaten back because of this, it was better than actually losing his ranked carving knife that was too precious to him. However, he noticed a fine detail right at this moment. Huo Yuao was using his right hand to grip the wheelchair's armrest, and it seemed a little strong. Even his fingers' joints were a little greenish white. Soul engineers all had good eyes. Otherwise, how could they craft intricate and delicate soul tools? A thought flashed through his mind as he stared at Huo Yuao's right hand, which was still gripping the wheelchair's armrest tightly. Maybe he doesn't have the confidence to defeat me at all, and he simply wants to use this wager to beat back my grandeur. 98 began to scrutinize Huo Yuao closely when he thought about that possibility. He quickly found another fine detail. Huo Yuao's other arm seemed to be quivering, the arm that he had never used before. Huo Yuao's calm eyes were flickering with something, and those eyes seemed to betray a little anxiety and discordance. These details weren't obvious, but 98 managed to pick up on these clues as he observed Yuao closely. "Okay, I'll take the bet." A confident smile surfaced on his face. Huo Yuao was momentarily stunned. "You're really betting with me? I'm lacking a ranked carving knife anyway. Many thanks to you, then." 98 stared back mischievously and said, "Do you really have the confidence to defeat me?" "I don't think so. Since you want to die, little fellow, I will fulfill your wishes today." Huo Yuao answered coldly. "We'll have that bet, then. If you're not afraid, we can make this bet public, and the Duskwater Alliance can be our witness. Otherwise, what if you lose and you deny that this bet exists?" 98 was full of avarice, and his mind was already made up. No matter how he looked at Huo Yuao, he felt as if he was trying to put up a strong front. A cold smile appeared on his face as he said, "All right, the Duskwater Alliance will witness our wager. They will see how you lose that soul tool to me. You, come here." He reached out and hollered at the MC on stage not far from where they were. The kin walked over hurriedly. He was just an MC, and he didn't dare to offend the Sun Moon Empire's soul engineers. Soul engineers were the most highly regarded profession in the country. "What do you need, sir?" Akin sounded a little fawning. 98 grunted coldly and said, "I want to wager with my opponent, and we are betting on who will be the eventual winner. I want the Duskwater Alliance to lay witness to this wager." "Ah, okay." Aiken's eyes sparkled. He was the Golden Hall's top-rated MC, and he knew all too well what the audience loved to watch. Exciting things were a lot better for the gambling atmosphere, and this was especially true when everyone was still placing their bets. Arjun hurriedly made sure he knew everything there was to know about the situation. He immediately picked up his speaker-type soul tool and announced on stage, "Everyone placing your bets. Please wait a moment. There's a minor interlude that I have to tell everyone about so that everyone can make better judgments. Just a few moments ago, 98 and 66, who are both mighty soul engineers, have announced their own wager. 98 will use his own carving knife as the stake, and 66 will use a powerful soul tool as his. We will invite the tournament's chief judge to assess these two items so that we can confirm their value. Of course, the wager has been announced and completed, and both parties cannot take anything back anymore." 98 grabbed the speaker-type soul tool from his hands and said loudly, "My stake is a carving knife. It's the same one that will be used later on in the competition." He stuffed the speaker-type soul tool back into Arjun's hands after this sentence. When he turned around at Hua Yuao, he could see that Hua Yuao's head was lowered, and there seemed to be sweat dripping down from his temples. "Why don't we let it go, brother?" Hikaiju whispered into Hua Yuao's ear. "Let it go." "No, it's too late. The announcement has already been made." His ears were pretty good, and 98 could clearly tell what they were going on about. At this moment, the three judges that the Dusk Water Alliance had sent forth stepped onto the competition stage. The judges had changed once more because this was the round of 6, so the judges that came forward today were all Class 7 soul engineers. These three mighty Class 7 soul engineers had veils draped over their faces, as it was clear that they had some reputation in the outside world, so they were afraid that people familiar with them would recognize them. The three judges stepped onto the competition stage and quickly arrived before them. 98 directly retrieved his carving knife and handed it over. He wasn't afraid of people pining after his carving knife, as the world seemed to look on. Furthermore, he had quite a background to back himself up. His dark green carving knife was a tad bigger than most carving knives. The blade seemed to have rust marks. They didn't seem like actual rust. It seemed ancient and unornamented, and there were two dragon-shaped engravings on both sides of the blade. It emanated chilly sensations, and even the naked eye could tell that this carving knife was extraordinary. The middle judge among the three took the carving knife carefully. He was immediately overcome with a look of astonishment. "This Darkness Green Dragon?" 98 answered proudly. "Yes, it's my Darkness Green Dragon." The judge turned around and took Arjun's speaker-type soul tool. He deepened his voice and said, 98 has chosen his Darkness Green Dragon as his stake. This is a ranked carving knife. The Darkness Green Dragon is ranked 59th on the carving knife leaderboard. It carries darkness and wind elements, and any soul tool that it creates will carry these two elements. It's 3 times heavier than typical carving knives, and is well known for its stability. Using this carving knife with suitable soul tools will create formidable effects, and it will have a 10% increase in success rate when forging soul tools above Class 7. Yes, this was a formidable ranked carving knife. Ranked carving knives were almost priceless to soul engineers. The three judges turned towards Hua Yuao when they finished introducing 98's carving knife. Hua Yuao was grasping his Hinchen's blessing as tightly as he could with his right hand, and his eyebrows were tightly knit together, but he didn't make a sound at all. 96 came over beside 98 and asked him a few questions inquisitively while he glanced at Hua Yuao from time to time. 98 whispered some explanations to him with a smile on his face. 96 frowned slightly, and he responded as if he were chiding his friend. "What are you betting with?" The judge stepped up to Hua Yuao. Hua Yuao hesitated for a moment before he uttered his Hinchen's blessing. "My teacher gave this to me. Don't spoil it." The look of reluctance on his face was undeniable as he spoke. The leading judge examined the soul tool's formation arrays as he took Hua Yuao's Hinchen's blessing. His body trembled as he blurted out, "This is the illustrious virtue halls." "Shut up." Hua Yuao interrupted him with an angry shout. The judge seemed to realize something, and he hurriedly closed his mouth as he continued to inspect the soul tool. The other two judges came over, and all three of them inspected it for a long time as their eyes flowed with astonishment and shock. This was a soul tool that Jing Hinchen, the illustrious virtue hall's hallmaster, had created himself. Even though they weren't sure if this was a Class 9 soul tool, they could tell that this was an incredible soul tool from how complex it was and from the materials that were used to craft it. The three judges exchanged looks, but 98 was a little impatient. He walked over and said, "Can you make the announcement? You guys can't be biased. Otherwise, humph." The chief judge nodded. He picked up the speaker-type soul tool and said, 66 has chosen a high-level soul tool as his stake. For some special reasons, we cannot describe this item, but we can attest that its value is comparable to the Darkness Green Dragon. All right, we have finished assessing their stakes, and the Darkness Green Dragon will temporarily be given back to 98 for use in the tournament. This soul tool will be kept with us, and it will be given to the victor after this round. The wager has been established, and the Dusk Water Alliance will treat either party that goes back on his worded enemies. We will do our best to make sure that this wager goes through. The three just kept the Hinchen's blessing after the announcement and returned to their seats. The judges were sitting on 3 elevated chairs 3 meters above the ground, so they could watch everything that was going on with the contestants from their vantage point. Arjun took the speaker-type soul tool back and said loudly, "All right, the interlude is over. I trust that the wager between these two soul engineers has influenced your bets in some way. My dear guests, you have 10 minutes left. Hurry up and make your bets. The booths will close once time is up." The gamblers were indeed a lot livelier after this interlude's excitement and stimulation. Hua Yuao's face seemed to glow with ice cold light as he hit himself softly on the left shoulder. An amused smile broke out across his face. He's taken the bait in the end. Hikaiju escorted Hua Yuao to the second region's crafting desk before he patted him on the shoulder and returned to his own side. 98 walked over to his own crafting desk opposite Hua Yuao. There was a bright smile on his face as he said, "So, this soul tool is from the illustrious virtue hall. It's quite impressive. Looks like you're committed quite a bit to this gamble." Hua Yuao answered coldly, "You still have a chance to regret your words. Otherwise, won't you be devastated if you lose your ranked carving knife to me?" 98 laughed out loud. "I wouldn't be so sure that I'll be the one that will be devastated after this round. You're daydreaming if you want me to retract my wager. Weren't you so arrogant and outrageous before this? Why are you cowering now? Enough bullshit. We'll see who wins this wager with our abilities. Don't worry, even though I have absolute confidence that I will win, I will not underestimate you. I will use the soul tools that I'm most adept and familiar with against you today, and I won't give you a single thread of a chance at all." Hua Yuao's face changed slightly, but he said nothing more. He closed his eyes and began to conserve his energy and mentally prepare himself. The rare metals and the myriad of refined metals that were to be used in this round were sent up. This round was 10 hours long, so a lot more metals had been prepared for today. Some were placed on the crafting desks, while a rack specially given to each contestant was placed next to each of them for their own convenience. The 15 minutes allotted for betting quickly passed, and the gamblers returned to their seats one after another. After the lots had been drawn, the audience knew that the most attractive and interesting face-off would be between the two soul engineers who had made their own individual bet. The other two were conspicuously unbalanced, and the odds were pathetically low. The odds for the match between Hua Yuao and 98 were relatively higher, while Hua Yuao's odds were the highest. This was because he was against 98, and nobody could see how he had any advantage at all. Without talking about anything else, the judges estimated him as a Class 5 soul engineer, while 98 was a Class 6 soul engineer. 98 also possessed a ranked carving knife, the Darkness Green Dragon. Hua Yuao's odds were at 1 to 3, while his opponent's odds were at 5 to 4. The other two matchups were more evenly split. Begin. The soundproof barriers rose right after the chief judge's announcement. The MC was already outside the competition stage and was responsible for narrating today's competition. He quickly got onto a tall structure outside the competition stage and took a seat 5 meters above the stage. His seat was equipped with a speaker-type soul tool and a telescopic soul tool. The MC could clearly see what the 6 soul engineers were doing on stage. All 6 soul engineers began to move once the announcement was made. This round had no limit as to the number of soul tools that each contestant could create. That also meant that every contestant was allowed to create as many as they wanted within the stipulated time. The choice that each contestant had to make with regards to the volume and power would be up to them. Hua Yuao's eyes were especially focused and serious today. He had the same faith that he would definitely be victorious, but he also understood that 98 wasn't easy to deal with. The man had a ranked carving knife, and he was also a Class 6 soul engineer, so his standards were comparable to Hua Yuao's own abilities. The only thing that guy didn't have was Hua Yuao's spirit eyes, which gave him an advantage. A dash of golden light glowed beneath Hua Yuao's eyes. He waved his right hand over his forehead, and a green blade charged with life energy appeared in his hands. His life guardian blade. His opponent had a ranked carving knife, so how could Hua Yuao match up to his opponent if he didn't use his own? Outside the competition stage, Arjun exclaimed at almost the same time as Hua Yuao retrieved his own ranked carving knife. Wow, wow. Look at that, my dear guests. What is our 66 taken out? It's a carving knife that's entirely green in color, and from my perspective, that carving knife looks like it's been sculpted from a jewel. It's very eye-catching, and it's a green color filled with life energy. It's so beautiful. 66 does have some substance to back him up. It's no wonder he dares to wager against 98. The people that had bet on 98 became a little gloomy once they heard this. 98 couldn't hear what was going on outside, but he seemed to feel something when Huo Yuao took out his life guardian blade. He looked up, and was momentarily stunned, and his eyes coincidentally met Huo Yuao's stare. Their gazes met, and he was met with Huo Yuao's calm and composed smile. He grunted coldly and muttered, "So that's the thing you've been hiding. Let's not talk about the fact that your carving knife is not even ranked, and even if it is ranked, it's more important to see who the user is." Huo Yuao didn't respond at all. He picked up a piece of rare metal known as multi-ridged devil gold and began his own construction. This metal had a unique characteristic. This metal always seemed like it had uncountable ridges even when it was first mined, but everything else was as smooth like a mirror. This was how the name multi-ridged devil gold came about. Multi-ridged devil gold was different from other metals because it was inherently resistant to soul power. Any soul power that was infused into it would be rejected, and it could even produce a reactionary force several times the power of the soul power infused inside. If the soul power infused inside exceeded the range that the multi-ridged devil gold could take, the metal would explode. Multi-ridged devil gold wasn't considered very rare because it was still produced in relatively large amounts. It was typically the best choice for crafting defensive soul tools. This was especially true when soul engineers wanted to craft formation arrays for a protective soul barrier. The product would possess the multi-ridged devil gold's natural resistance to energy and soul power once completed. An excellent effect. The only problem is that multi-ridged devil gold was extremely tough, and at the same time naturally resistant to soul power. This meant it was a lot more difficult to create formation arrays from this metal. However, this was no problem at all before Huo Yuao's life guardian blade. The sharp bluish-green blade cut nimbly into the multi-ridged devil gold, and the life guardian blade absorbed every single ounce of life energy from the metal with every stroke and every part it touched. With Huo Yuao's precise control, life energy was only sucked away from the places that the blade actually cut into, and those parts naturally became extremely weak without any life energy at all. Huo Yuao was engraving and cutting into the multi-ridged devil gold as if he was slicing tofu, and the metal was quickly forged and engraved into a disc-like shape about the size of his palm. Ajin knew quite a bit about crafting soul tools, so he could commentate properly. His jaw hung open as he looked on from his high seat. Oh my heavens! That's just incredible. Multi-ridged devil gold is extremely resistant to soul power, but it's become as weak as tofu beneath 66's mystical carving knife. 98 was also carving and sculpting a rare metal. He was focused on creating his own soul tool, so he no longer looked at Huo Yuao. All his energy and attention was focused on the soul tool in front of him. His darkness green dragon flickered with faint green light with every stroke, and caused the metal to ripple at the same time. The golden hall outside was in an uproar compared to the competition stage's silence. Everybody was discussing things vigorously with their companions and the people they were familiar with. 10 hours was a really long time, and many people started to leave after watching the show for more than 2 hours. However, they were just getting something to eat, and weren't actually leaving. The Duskwater Alliance's service was exceedingly good. Food and refreshments were provided outside the golden hall, everything free of charge. The audience could also redeem blankets free of charge, and the sofas that they were given to sit on were spacious and very comfortable for lying down. Even though these sofas couldn't compare to actual beds, it was much better than sitting up for the next couple of hours. The golden hall's lighting became progressively dimmer over time, so the competition stage's lighting stayed the strongest. Some officials got onto the stage discreetly and delivered some food and drinks to the competing soul engineers before they slunk away. They even had thick cotton layers beneath their shoes so that they could avoid making too much sound, and could avoid affecting the competitors. Time continued to pass, and soul tools were completed one after another. Arjun stepped off his high seat after another period of commentating to rest as well. It was getting late, and the gamblers had to rest. They couldn't absorb any more commentating anyway. The 6 people on stage were very focused, and they didn't want to waste even a single second of time. The contestants would signal to the judges after each soul tool was completed, so that the judges could assess them and confirm that they had been completed. These soul engineers could keep their soul tools only after the judges had given their approval, and these soul tools would be used in the face-off afterwards. After 3 hours, 98 had already finished 2 soul tools, while Huo Yuao had yet to finish a single one. He was the only person among the 6 contestants who hadn't raised his hand yet. Some of the gamblers who weren't resting and were still very excited, and those who had placed their bets on him were getting worried. Of course, this was a minority, as only those who could take a high risk would choose to bet on the underdog. 98 completed 4 soul tools in 6 hours. This was an astonishing speed, as all 4 soul tools were class 5 soul tools. Class 6 soul engineers didn't have to craft class 6 soul tools if they were limited by time. Soul engineers would have to consider defending themselves first before anything else in a contest between soul engineers, rather than attacking their adversary. Therefore, 1 soul tool was clearly not enough for combat, and having a balanced and suitable combination of soul tools was the best choice. 6 hours went by, but Huo Yuao still hadn't raised his hand a single time. There were many seemingly sophisticated components on his crafting desk. Some were formation arrays, while others were parts and accessories that the judges couldn't fathom. Nobody knew what exactly he was doing, and they were perplexed that he still hadn't finished a single soul tool. 98 would look up at Huo Yuao from time to time. His eyes seemed a little doubtful as well. What's this fellow trying to do? Why doesn't he have a single completed soul tool yet? He must have some ability to boast of if he dares to use that thing as his stake. Is he panicking? No, he must be using some special method or technique. His eyes are very focused, and it doesn't look like he's giving up. 98 naturally paid more attention to Huo Yuao as these thoughts ran through his head. His eyes darted to the crafting desk opposite him intermittently, and his hand movements were naturally a little slower than before. He quickly discovered that Huo Yuao was actually crafting 1 single soul tool. Those parts and accessories were laid around the table to form a vague shape. He's only crafting 1 soul tool? Is he trying to gamble everything he has on some excessively powerful attack? His eyes closed into slits, and he pondered for a moment longer before he began to craft another soul tool. His movements were conspicuously faster than before as metal dust and fragments drifted all over the place. His eyes flickered with dark and cold light as he thought to himself, "You want to ambush me with an extremely powerful soul tool? Huh? Then I will foil your plans before you can even execute them properly." All 6 contestants continued crafting their soul tools nervously and hurriedly. They raised their hands again and again, and the gamblers who were resting before began to wake up. The 10 hours were almost up, and Huo Yuao was the only odd one out among the 6 contestants who hadn't created a single finished product. 8 hours went by. Huo Yuao had been working anxiously this entire time, but he finally looked up from his work. There was a clear look of fatigue on his face. He had formidable spiritual power, but he had been tensed up and nervous for many hours. He was truly feeling a little exhausted from crafting this soul tool before him. There were almost 100 accessories and components laid out on the crafting desk before him. Huo Yuao had designed this soul tool with the life guardian blade as its core ever since he remembered that he had a carving knife. This was also the first time that he had attempted to make it, and it was because of this fact that he had to be very careful and meticulous throughout the entire process. Of course, his meticulousness was also highly related to the soul tool's inherent complexity. Huo Yuao glanced at the hourglass next to him. "I have 1 hour left. I guess I have enough time to finish it." Huo Yuao wasn't in a hurry. He sat there with his eyes closed so that he could focus his attention, and he channeled soul power across his body to adjust his body's state and his state of mind. His soul power couldn't complete its circulation because his left arm and his legs were frozen. Therefore, he found it a lot more difficult to adjust his condition and his body's state. This was also a substantial reason why he felt so exhausted after just 10 hours. If he had done this before he was injured, he could continue for 2 days and 2 nights without a problem. "I have to accelerate my absorption of the ultimate ice origin energy of heaven and earth. Fortunately, I found some methods recently." 15 minutes went by, but Huo Yuao was still sitting there motionless, and the round was inching towards its end. There were very few people who had placed their bets on him, but these few people were still exceedingly displeased as they watched him, and many of them even started to curse and shout. There would be a corresponding dull on the soul engineer's respective desks for each soul tool that they completed. At this point, the soul engineer with the most soul tools had 6 finished products, but Huo Yuao hadn't even completed 1. He wouldn't even be allowed to enter the face-off after this if he didn't have a single completed soul tool. Everybody looked on as the 10 hours slowly ticked down to 15 minutes. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.